Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. You guys, I am so honored and blessed. My socks are just totally blown off with my guest today, Karega, but I'm going to introduce her more in a minute. Let me take care of a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, you know that the Academy is open for business. It's where all of the experts that we have on the show, plus more, are teaching all of the principles of spiritual and business and spiritual and business combined in the Academy. Plus, twice a month, we meet live for coaching with me and together to kind of mastermind and work through some issues if you have trouble implementing, because transformation comes from implementation. You can listen to information all day long, but if you're not actually taking action and putting it to work in your business, you're never going to move that needle forward, which is what we're here for. And second of all, the cruise has been launched. In September 12th through the 20th, we are launching out of Miami and going to the Caribbean. We have Lindy Strong on board. We're going to be doing a lot of inner healing. The cruise is called SCB, Spirit-Centered Business at Sea, SCB at Sea, Inside Out, because we're talking about getting our inside all sorted so that it comes out well in our business. And we can't really serve others until we've got ourselves, and especially like money conversations or understanding how we really bring our expertise to the world. Once we get that sorted out, then we'll be able to serve well in our business. So we're going to take that time out on the retreat in the beautiful Caribbean. There's going to be lots of free time for fun and activities. We're going to get down to work though. It's really an intensive time. We're going to work on ourselves, get over our stuff, work on our business, and get stuff done. So those are my announcements. I am sure that we are totally done with announcements and on to the show. Christian, oh my gosh, I am so blown away by you, and the guests are absolutely going to love you. Do I want to disclose who you actually are running? Actually, he's in your shadow, really. Do we want to disclose that?
Sure, why not?
Okay, all right. So Christian is actually the brains behind Bride Ministries.
Oh, she said that, not me.
Yes, Dan Duval would not be where he is if it weren't for this woman. She is a Harvard M.B.A, brilliant business strategist, and she has an upcoming program that's going to start, and she's going to expose a little bit about that, reveal. But first of all, Christian, why don't you tell us your story? Because I absolutely love the fact that you did come through Harvard and then God had you step away. So why don't you tell us that story?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me on to the show. I'm super excited to be here. You've been very kind to me during the process, and happy birthday to you, right? At the time.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So my story is really interesting. So I grew up in Michigan, in a house full of 6 kids, and my dream was actually to go to Stanford. And at the time, that was not really an easy thing to do. Everyone told me, why don't you just go to University of Michigan or someplace? I'm like, no, I knew I wanted to go to Stanford. So I ended up going to Stanford, majoring in engineering, industrial engineering, and spent a number of years working in a few different areas. One, management consulting. So I worked with companies who were putting massive technology implementations in, and I worked on the organization transformation for those technologies. I did that for a few years. I worked for strategy for the government. And then I went into finance and helped with a large nonprofit, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. I was one of 3 professionals managing $2 billion in assets. So I was kind of the junior person on the team managing $2 billion. And I started, this kind of tells you my age, but I started right when the financial crisis of 2008 happened. So everything was going wrong and nothing was my fault. So I learned a lot. So I did that. And then I went on to Harvard Business School. And that was an interesting experience. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. From that, I really thought I wanted to do private equity. So I did a little bit of private equity, which is kind of investing in businesses in the with private capital. After that, I did a little mergers and acquisitions at Pfizer. So a little valuation work. And then I went on and got this kind of weird job at a national retailer of nutritional supplements. And so you would know the place if I told you. But they actually hired me to build an international supply chain. And I never done supply chain. I never done retail. I never done any of this. And they hired me to do a project that for 2 years they couldn't get done. And within about 6 to 8 weeks, I figured out a solution and was able to implement it. But it was very painful for a few reasons, but I was actually able to do something that the VPs and the CXOs said couldn't be done. And so from that, I learned a lot about product development. I did some e-commerce work. I learned how to build supply chains. I learned about retailing, strategy, customer development. I just learned so much from that job, but it was pretty stressful. And so Daniel and I, when we met, I was actually in New York City doing that work. And I knew that time was coming to an end. But it took me, because I was always about financial security and my career, it really took the Lord's leading to kind of pull me away from that and to move into entrepreneurial stuff, because that is it's a lot more risk. It takes a lot more time, and it actually takes a lot more money. And I wrestled with that. I wasn't, when I left the corporate world, I wasn't in this, this is super great, I'm so excited, I get to do it. Was kind of a very scary, like, what am I doing type of thing to leave that context where all the metrics are known and my colleagues understand, you get a promotion, how much you're making, all those KPIs that you think about in business don't apply in this context. Yeah. And it was just, I woke up in cold sweats in the middle of the night. What am I doing? And I had to really get a lot of assurance from the Lord that my track was actually the track to be on.
Yes, that's so important. Especially when it feels so wrong. I know when I came out of corporate, it just felt like, really, Lord? I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you met Dan. Now that's just got to be a whole other story, because one doesn't just meet Dan Duval and, get along with him, I would assume.
No,
he's just, you know what I mean?
No, actually.
He's got some sort of ideas there.
Yeah, no, actually, he's actually a super normal person. That's actually the biggest misconception. He's actually very easy to get along with. And so even when we go out to dinner with people, I'm always like, please don't tell him what you do. Like, let's just say you're a coach that helps people. So as long as you don't know what he does and you just think he's super normal, it's just when you start getting into the details that everything starts to get a little weird.
Yeah. Right. This conversation goes sideways quick.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. Okay. So you were in New York and you were in that last big corporate project, and then you came out of it, and then what happened?
So came out of it, got married, left that. And then I was almost in this corporate detox phase, because the truth is that job was incredibly stressful. So I got a lot of stuff done, but it kind of ripped the back off of me. It was just, and I was working maybe 15, 16, 17 hours a day, 6 days a week. I'm 7 days a week. Christmas, New Year's, everything I was working. I didn't have a massive team. I had some, a team, but it wasn't massive. And it became my life. I was just completely all consumed. And because the good thing and the bad thing about me is, like, a goal and a very difficult goal is all I need to be motivated. And you say it's impossible, I'm going to not sleep, eat, do anything until I meet that goal. So I spent a lot of time kind of corporate detoxing from just the work environment. I talked to some of my business school friends, and we all talk about having PTSD, like a little bit of like this, I just need a minute. And I took a minute to just detox from the old environment and allow God to kind of fill me up on what's coming up and what is new. And so I started doing small business consulting because people just kind of came to me and asked, about that. One of the things that I realized really quickly was you can't really do strategy for small businesses because they don't necessarily have the time or maybe capabilities to implement. So when you're talking about doing consulting for small businesses, you're often talking about implementation, which is what Bralynn, right? Like you can't just say, hey, Exactly. This is what you should do. You should do a sales funnel. No, you have to do that. You have to build it. And so I kind of got out of that because per unit of time, it wasn't very, it was just too much time for too much time for what I was getting out of it. And so I kind of did a series of small businesses like that. And then I moved on to the beauty brand, which I launched last year called Ayur Luxe. And there's kind of a whole story around that. But that took me a year to develop because it just takes longer to develop brands than you would think. And that's one of the things that's launched. Also, during that time, someone who's a part of our ministry and on our board, I met her, and she has an incredible snack food concept that she's a lawyer by day. Business is not her thing. I actually partnered with her last year, and we also launched that business as well. And so there are two businesses that I'm running and operating, as well as obviously helping out a lot with Bride Ministries. And that's kind of where I got, I don't want to say stuck, but it felt like stuck for a long time, was building up the systems for Bride Ministries, building up the website, building up the presence, and doing a lot of what people see now today as Bride Ministries. A lot of that I was working on in the background.
Right. And those of us who've been following Bride for a while can see how it has transformed. And you're doing a superb job. Everything, the branding looks stellar. The business model, from what I can see looking from the outside, seems really solid. And, you're doing a great job. And that's just, a casual looking from the outside. So I'm sure that if I actually dove into the nuts and bolts, I would just be astounded, because I'm sure that it takes a lot to run something like that. And, Ruthie is one of my clients, and she absolutely loved working with Dan and Bride Ministries. And she was always just astounded at how well it was run. So
thank you. One interesting thing about this, and this is something that I think entrepreneurs who are listening to your podcast, or folks interested in business would be interested in, is one of the things that I'm really, really interested in and focused on, and God has given me something for, is around using technology to kind of punch above your weight. So one of the good things and bad things about Bride Ministries is that we look much bigger and much more put together than we are right now. We're put together, but because we use technology, and we are a technology platform, we're online. When I met Daniel, he had 4 employees. Now we have 1, right? So we're able to do so much more because we're really efficient. We use technology to do most of the work. And those key pieces of technologies along certain parts of our ministry makes it so that we can increase our reach, look really professional doing it, and do a lot more with a lot less in terms of money and people and time. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to do that. But the flip side of that is people think we have this massive organization, and it's just me and Dan. We were running this out of our house until 8 months ago. So that's the only downside, is that people expect a lot more from us than we're actually able to give.
Well, and that's, I guess it's up and down, but we can all look bigger, better, faster, more because of technology. And that's kind of the new normal, is people kind of expect that even though it's a 1 or 2 person show, it's still looking top notch. and those of us in the industry kind of know that it is only a 1 or 2 man show, but you can tell those who have stepped up to the plate with technology and those who haven't. And let me tell you, the ROI on investing in your technology is tremendous, right? And I'm sure you can speak to that.
Absolutely right. And
yeah, so I'd like to know, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would like to know about your spiritual journey, and where were you during Harvard, or during Stanford, during Harvard, during this time? Had you come out of the Christian box of church, or had you not yet until you met Dan? I don't know where you were in all of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up, I was, found the Lord when I was 6, grew up in a very oneness Pentecostal, very structured environment. And then when I went to Stanford, Palo Alto is very liberal, massive culture shock for me, right? Because I was just we went to church 4 times a week, and, it was just all of that. But I was determined not to really, to backslide. And so during that time, I was already, the Lord was already dissolving a lot of the religious programming away from me, but at the same time, I was getting super, super close with God. And so during that time, I would get up at 5 a.m. and pray. I was fasting. I had some incredible encounters with the Lord, but it was all kind of in the traditional sense that you and I would recognize. When I went off and spent the years in corporate America, it was kind of, I bifurcated my faith and my work, right? I was Christian, the professional who, can do good work. I don't necessarily curse or drink or do any of those things, because at the time I thought you can go to hell, but whatever. But so I just did all of that, but you don't need to know my name is Christian, but my religion, yes, I am, but that's not important. It's not part of this whole conversation. I kind of hid it behind in order to be, accepted in that context. And so from there to Harvard Business School, I was, I never fell away, but it was just separate, right? Then I went off, and after business school, when in my work environment, it was a separate thing. It didn't even occur to me that you would combine, being in a corporation as a kingdom citizen. And that's something I deeply regret, is not understanding that I thought the Lord loved me and that he was interested in my job and I could pray to him about concerns, but I didn't see myself as a kingdom agent on assignment in my corporation. I didn't see that the king had a mandate for me to be there, and what my job was to affect the people around me in all sorts of ways, and also to bless the company just because I was there. And that I didn't pick up, I didn't realize, and I didn't know. And as a result, I never really fully operated in that context. But as an entrepreneur, that's something I'm very aware of. And the Lord has given me a lot of revelations on. And that's what I'm, so keen to teach people and to share with people and encourage people that, as a kingdom operative, as a kingdom agent, business, God is so deeply involved, interested, and actually has massive directives directly for you in the context of your business or your job.
Oh my gosh. My heart is singing to hear you say that. This is the reason, folks, this is the reason why I fell in love with this woman. Yes, exactly. You are an agent and you're on a mission, and regardless if your business doesn't have to be called spirit-centered business like mine, although I did call it that for a reason, because I have a lot of people who are in just spiritual and not necessarily Christian. But you can do this regardless of, I don't care if you're a painter painting houses, it doesn't matter. You can be that agent. And this is one of the brilliant things that Christian brings to the table, is how to do this. And so then my next question is, let's talk about what a business truly is in a spiritual sense. I love the way that you frame this up for us.
Absolutely. So I figured this out the hard way. To my class, I talk about this as being the $50,000 lesson that we learned the hard way, because I didn't understand. And so I lost $50,000 on one of the businesses. And the reason wasn't because it was necessarily a bad business idea, but I didn't understand what it looked like and what I was actually doing, knowing what I know, how to operate in the spirit. If you're just a Christian who goes to church on Sunday and you believe in Jesus, you go to church on Easter and sometimes or whatever, the enemy isn't really that concerned with you, because you're not really you're not very fluid in spiritual things. But the deeper you are in understanding the kingdom of God, the deeper you are in understanding spiritual things, the more frightened he is of you. And I'm going to explain why. So when I had that experience, I kind of took a step back and said, God, what happened? And he said, Christian, you have to understand that when you, as a kingdom operative or kingdom person who carries within you the government of God, because the Bible says that the kingdom of God is within you. When you go into an industry, you have to see what that looks like to the enemy. That looks like declaring war. That's what it looks like. Why? Because within you, you carry the government of God, and if you're on assignment from the King of Kings, who is the Lord God Jehovah, you have a mandate in your hand. If you're doing this the right way, right? And a mandate gives you access to kingdom resources when you get in a fight, because they're going to try to oppose you. Now you have the angels at your assistance, right? So you're actually making advancements in the kingdom. Every customer you have in is advancement. It's another opportunity to evangelize. Every time your suppliers is another opportunity to expand the kingdom of God and to bring light to that place. Your products, you can actually bless your products. So when they go into people's homes or your service, they're actually making the impact and they are leading men to repentance. There's so much power that you have. And now if you are a kingdom operative who knows how to operate the courts of heaven, you can get judgments rendered on your behalf when they do try to oppose you. And now you're actually expanding the kingdom of God little bit by little bit. You're actually making that industry more righteous. You're actually bringing the light of the Lord into that place, one customer at a time, one product at a time, one court case at a time, one battle won at a time. And so what I teach my students, and this is a part of why I teach this class, Building Kingdom Businesses, is because now you're getting me excited, Bralynn, because when you have that knowledge and you know how to operate in the spirit world, you are going to be opposed. And so you have to have your spiritual paperwork in order. That is your mandates. We talk about mandates, mantles, and mountains, those three things. And the reason why is because you need the resources of heaven at your disposal in order to fulfill your assignment. And you're not going to get that mandate. You're not going to get those resources unless you have an official commissioning by the king, because the king defends his business. You defend your business, but the king will defend his business. And so you have all those resources at your disposal when you have a mandate from the Lord. So we talk about how to get those mandates. And at that time, I didn't have that. I didn't know. I just thought I'm a smart person who wants to do business. And I have a good idea. So Lord bless it. No. And it's not just about getting permission, like, oh, yes, God. It's about getting your paperwork in order because of what it means in the spirit. It's really, really profound when you think about it that way. It is a declaration of war. It is kingdom advancing activity when you engage in business as a kingdom citizen.
Yes. That's just amazing. Yes, absolutely. And this is what we do in the Spirit-Centered Business Activation Group. It's not necessarily training. It's literally twice a month. We go up into, we have a conference room in heaven, and we literally go get whatever needs to happen in our business. And, sometimes it's a personal issue that's going on that we need to sort stuff out. And sometimes it's it's exterior, but we go up and it never ceases to amaze me what God does, and those things come down and actually manifest in the 3D world, in our business, in ways that we would have never thought would happen, So
exactly.
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely spot on. So in the academy, you'll be teaching about these, the mandates, mantles, and mountains, or exactly what are you going to?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a few other things there, but
okay,
I can talk a little bit. I can mention it, but yeah, that's in my class. It's a whole lesson on the difference between mandates, mantles, and mountains, and how they work together. That's in the Kingdom Business class.
Okay, excellent. And that class is open right now or not yet?
Yeah, so it's open enrollment now. It starts April 7th. And it's going to be on a Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it's open enrollment. I'll send you the link so, we can share it with everyone.
Sure. Okay. We'll make sure that that gets in the show notes. And everybody, in case you missed this live, just to let you know, on spiritcenteredbusiness.com, everything is in there on the podcast. All of the show notes, all of the notes that I'm taking, all of the links that she gives, the wonderful quotes that she gives. Everything will be in there on spiritcenteredbusiness.com if you miss it. And also, just in case you need to have it as a MP3 download, the podcast is syndicated across the Fringe Radio Network on multiple platforms. It's the same as the Bride Ministries is syndicated on Fringe Radio Network too.
Yep,
so we're on, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and tons of other ones. Yeah, so awesome. You can find us there and download this episode if you need to hear it over and over again, like I usually do whenever Christian speaks.
So
I want to listen to that one again.
That's so sweet. Another thing, just to get you in terms of what it looks like in the spirit, and again, we go over this in a kingdom business, building kingdom business class, is that the Lord showed me that your business is a realm in the spirit. Your business is actually a realm of the spirit. So some people may say, what is a realm? So for those of you, just to think about a realm is just a geographical location in the spirit. This office that I'm in doing this recording is a realm. Where Bralynn is doing her space is a realm. My body is a realm within realms, because the liver, there's circulatory systems. Well, in the spirit world, the second heaven has tons and tons of realms. And one of the things the Lord made very clear to me is that there's oftentimes a break with kingdom business owners or Christian business owners, because they get a prophetic word from the Lord, or they get a prophetic word from someone, and they try to manifest the business. But here's the thing. The Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That substance actually has to be built in the spirit realm first. So actually go through the actual spirit realm and actually show you how this works, because there's oftentimes a break. You have a good idea. It's a God idea. And then for some reason, it just gets swallowed up. For some reason, it just gets completely dissolved. And the Lord showed me why. Because businesses are conceived in the third heaven. The Lord gives you a mandate, gives you a vision. They're conceived there. They're incubated in the second heaven, and then they're brought into the third, to the first heaven, or this realm, through agreement and faith. And so there's actually a process. And we go through this in one of the classes. This is called Building Businesses in the Spirit Realm. And we talk about what that actually looks like, how to do it, and all the things you can interface your business realm with once you've actually understood that it's there and it needs to be tended to, and you're building it with Jesus. And so that's another thing that's really important in terms of, I don't hear a lot of people talking about what business actually looks like in the spirit. What does it actually look like?
Right.
It's actually an entity in and of itself, and there's massive implications for that revelation.
Yes, exactly. So now that you have learned that, when you started either the Bride Ministries the next time around or your next business, what were the first kind of steps that you took to not only conceive but incubate that?
Oh, that's a great question. So the first one is the beauty brand is Ayur Luxe, and the snack food business is called Naturally Cravables. And with both of those business, one of the things the Lord told me is, make sure to have your paperwork in order. So I always go to the court of heaven, and I get the mandate for my business. And I get the mandate. There's some key things I have to get mandates for anytime I start a business, and the Lord tells me those. And so just like you said, Bralynn, going to the court of heaven, getting those things. And then I learned to actually sit with the Lord and partner with the spirit of wisdom, right? Which is a spirit, right? And get downloads with the spirit of wisdom on how to build it. Why? Because the Bible is very clear that building wisdom as a foundation. There's something about having wisdom as the foundation of your business. So I sit and I draft out that part of it, but then I actually sit in the spirit and pray in order to build the realm in the spirit. And I build it with Jesus, and I visualize and say, what is this? What's it going to be? Tend to it, pray over it. There's some certain prayers that I pray for it to just kind of minister to that place. And we talk about that in the class as well, those prayers to tend to it. And when my students have gone back to see their realms, they're like, I could not believe it was overrun. It had not been tended to. It was completely unprotected. I teach you how to protect your realm. And those are the types of things that I do before I start a business. And you do that on a periodic basis, right? Because prayers are temporal. They're powerful, but they're temporal. So if you want something to last in the spirit world, it's not like something gets established. You have to always tend to it because it's actually an active place where people are coming in, actors are going out. And so I make sure that my business is protecting the spirit on a weekly basis, keep that in prayer, sometimes daily if something's going on. Those are the things that I've done. And then to establish it. Does that kind of answer your question? It's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of partnering with Jesus. It's a lot of partnering with wisdom. And there's some courts of heaven activity that you could do to get your business prepared from a spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That's brilliant. I would say though, that a lot of the entrepreneurs, especially like you have an M.B.A. from Harvard, so you know a lot more of the ins and outs and the strategy of actually how to set up a business in the natural. 100%. So I'm sure that when you align, like, okay, so getting the mandate is, like applying for a business license. Could you make some more alignments for us? Like in the natural, this is what you're going to be doing. And then in the spirit realm, it looks like this.
Yeah, sure.
Not every single thing, but just so that people can understand it a little bit more, because I think it's a little bit ethereal for them.
Yeah, it's a little abstract. So one way that someone described, I'll do the mantles, mandates, and mountains really quickly. One of the students described your mandate as your mission, the mantle as your mission, the mandate as your permission, and the mountain as your position. So that's one thing to think about it, right? So it's mission, permission, position, right? The building in the spirit realm, imagine if you are a business, you're going to need an office or you're going to need a place to reside, right? Your realm, so you need, if you're like right now, I'm in our office, you're going to need a warehouse, you're going to maybe work from home, you're going to work from a space. It is the space that your business exists from the spirit perspective. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Bralynn, does that make sense? Yes. So it's like so it has to look like something in the spirit. What does it look like? Right? If your spirit's going to be there, where are they going to be? They're going to be in that geographical location. That's like the quote unquote office in the spirit. It's more complicated than that. But to simplify it, that's a way to think about it. Does that make sense? It's more like this. This is a perfect example. If a U.S. soldier is going to invade Mexico, can he just go into Mexico and invade? No, he needs a declaration of war, right? That's a process. That is what your mandate actually gives you, is a declaration of war in that industry. Why? Because when that U.S. soldier goes out and it starts to invade Mexico, he's going to need backup. That is the angelic host with you, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can think about it from a business perspective, but it really is more like warfare, right? And then when you need more of the resources, you need the drones and you need the firefighter jets, and you need the atomic bombs or whatever it is. I'm not a war person. You have access to that because you're being represented by the United States government and they have it. It's all governmental access. And the way to get that governmental access is to make sure that you are doing things under the auspice of the King of Kings. Does that kind of make sense, Bralynn? Does that make sense? Is that less? Yeah. Is that more tangible?
Yes, it really does. Yes, no, I think that will help people a lot. And then another thing that I teach, especially when you're starting out, is most of your time is going to be spent marketing. You don't get to do what you're really good at until you get your marketing done, because you won't have anyone to buy what you're really good at. So when you're talking about marketing in the spirit realm, draw some correlations with that.
Okay, that's really interesting. So that's all from the spirit realm, right? But then as you say, building, this is one thing I want to say. The hard thing about building kingdom businesses or enterprises is that they are counterintuitive. They don't always make sense based on what my Harvard Business School would prescribe. They don't, because God will tell you to do something that is counterintuitive. And are you moving by the Spirit and being led by his strategy, or what makes sense in a traditional sense? One of the things I talk about too, Bralynn, this is kind of what you're getting at, is, and I teach entrepreneurs, not necessarily in this class, but in the next one, which is people are so focused on their product. This product is going to be lip gloss, and it's going to have this, and it's going to have coconut oil on it. It's going to be tea tree oil, and it's going to be so good for your lips. And they're telling me feature, 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 feature. And that is a telltale way to know that you're a novice entrepreneur, because while you're focusing on your product, I'm focusing on customer development instead of product development, which is, who is your customer? What do they like? What's their problem? How do they talk about their problem? How are you a solution to their problem? And how do you provide that solution in a way that they can recognize, right? And so that's kind of this whole other thing, which is being customer development focused and not product development focused. And so that's actually why the businesses that I have started, because I know where the customer is. They're easy to find. Where do they hang out? When you're going to go to market, when they're trying to buy something, where do they go when they want to go buy it? Right. And so those are the types of things that I think about, you know, when I think about marketing. It's like, it's customer development. How do you speak? How are you solving a problem? And the greater the problem that you solve, the more value you create. But a business is not about creating value. A business is actually about capturing the value you just created. And that's another problem. People are like, I want to just create value. Because think about it. I can take this thing, I can create so much value, but I don't capture most of the value I created because I'm charging the wrong price, or the supplier takes most of the value, right? So you have what actually operating in a business is not just about creating value. It's about a profit model or a revenue model that allows you to capture as much of the value that you actually create. So that's not necessarily a spiritual thing, but I think it's really important when you think about, you know, pursuing business.
Well, I think that the spiritual piece of that, I work with my clients all the time, is understanding the value that they do bring, because they so often devalue themselves. I often work with coaches and speakers, people who are creating a wisdom-based business. And so when they bring transformation to the table, they don't know how to price it. And they often underprice it because they don't value it at the value of that transformation that is actually a spiritual transaction that's happening, and that's changing the trajectory of the other person's life. You have no idea how to value that, and you don't have the idea of what to bring to the table, of the experience of the years of everything that God has poured into you, that you're pouring into that person. And because it comes so naturally to you, it's like, oh, I'll give it away. Oh, that is missing capturing value right there.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's it. Your clients are exactly what I'm saying. They're creating this value. They're changing lives. So it's being created, but they're not capturing it because they have feelings about whether or not they should charge for it. They undervalue it. They don't know if it's actually that. All of that is exactly what I'm talking about. And that is really, really profound in Christian-based businesses that are like services, like ministry type things. But it's also found in, you know, consulting and coaching and marketing people. We kind of think that being Christian means to underprice, and it's not.
It does not mean that. And it's really hard to get out of that poverty mindset because people are so conditioned to get things free in church, you know, and you know what? That's a whole other conversation. I better not go there. I'll get on my soapbox. Let's make it about you, not me.
Wherever you like to go, wherever you like to go.
All right. So what other principles does a kingdom kingdom-based business look like? Or what does bringing kingdom into your business look like? Just let's go into some of those principles.
Yeah, so there's a lot. There's a lot. So in my class, I teach 6. I teach 6. And so how about this is a good time to transition into that? Is that a good idea?
Well, you know what? Let's do. What I'd like to do, let's do a station identification break. And when we come back from the break, you can talk about around the subject of what you're going to be teaching in the academy, and then we'll wrap it up, and then we'll teach into the academy. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so let's take a quick break here.
Spirit-centered business, spiritual principles, and business principles combined. If you're ready to align your destiny and discover the destiny of your business, join us. We are entrepreneurs, leaders, and business professionals who take the power of the spirit realm in our business seriously. We go beyond just consuming information. We participate, activate, and engage the supernatural with unbelievable results. If you want to gather with like-minded business professionals to activate spiritual principles and mastermind creative solutions to business challenges, Spirit-Centered Business is your tribe. Go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com to become a member today.
And we are back. I am here with Christian Karega. I am so excited to continue the conversation on kingdom business. So you are going to tell us what is going on in your courses and what you're going to teach in the academy. And then, you also made a really good point about kingdom principles. We really don't know all of them.
No.
We don't, especially in transitioning into this next age and what God is doing. The revelations are coming faster and faster and faster. Who knows? Our Christian or our kingdom businesses might look totally different, than we think that they should, or some of the tried and true 3D model of how you do business in the 3D world is not going to look like what it's going to look like in the future. Maybe let's talk a little bit about that. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you said that because you mentioned, what do you think the principles of a kingdom business look like? And my first thought is I don't ever want to presume that I have the full picture, the full answer in every principle. I just have some ones that the Lord has given me so far, and some of which I've codified in this class, but some of which I'm still learning myself. We're all on a journey. But I think that the massive shift that people are going to make in their minds, and that's one of the things I want to leave people away with. And this is one thing most people, they don't talk about business like this, is that your kingdom business is not just something you do so that you can fund church activity. It's not.
Right.
It's not. And this is how I hear people talk about it, and they sound very altruistic and, it's so amazing. Like, I just want to make a lot of money and give it to the church, or give it to the Dan Duvals of the world, or give it to the people so that they can do the good Lord's work. That is a sacred cow that I want to slash and grill and make steak with, because I want
serve up a burger, baby.
I want you to see yourself as in the business that you're in, right where God has you, a part of God's actual mission, a part of God's actual kingdom expansion strategy. There are lives that you are going to affect sitting right where you are, that the Dan Duvals in the world, or minister this and so, preacher in the church will never touch, will never see. And the light that you have, we have folks with the Joseph anointing who are able to speak to kings, to speak into their lives. God is wanting to take the things that you have within you and to put it on a different platform. So that's just one thing that I want to encourage you, is to shift your paradigm about what you're doing. You're not doing this so that other people can do God's work. You are doing God's work when you operate from a position of kingdom reality and kingdom authority. So in terms of what I think what's going to look like in the future, I think people are going to get that point. They're going to get that their assignment field as the marketplace. They're going to get how to operate from a place of warfare, overcoming, and victory from that place. We're going to understand one of the big things that I've been on. So I have a Christian business podcast, super creative name, that operates once a month on Discovering the Truth with Duval. And we get into a lot of this stuff. I think we're going to get past the gatekeepers that operate in the spirit world that keep us out of certain mountains. And I just said a whole lot. Bralynn's like,
wow.
So there is massive gatekeepers and that's it. And I had to realize this because at Harvard Business School, they teach you sometimes what I call business myths about how a company got successful. Oh, they just did this and they did this and they had this profit model and it was so great. No, what they don't tell you behind the scenes that in the spirit world, there are secret deals going on because there's a gatekeeper that's saying, until you bow down to me, you don't get to the next level in your company. And what we don't know is a lot of people sell out there or they get stuck because they don't even know those gatekeepers exist. But I believe that once you understand how to be operative from a spiritual perspective with all the tools that we have, we're going to blow past those gatekeepers and we are going to have businesses that are compromising, that are significant, and that are kingdom through and through. So that's another thing is they're going to understand who they are and what God is really trying to do in their business. And then we're going to get past these gatekeepers that are in every single industry, sits on every mountain. And then thirdly, we are going to integrate our spirits into this. It's something I talk about and teach as well. We'll talk about this in the academy, how to engage with your spirit and how to do business with your spirit, how to do business from a context of your heavenly scroll. And how many of you know heavenly things are not discerned by the carnal mind? They must require your spirit. So we're talking to people who are engaged with their spirit and reading those scrolls and manifesting that. So those are three big things I predict for the future.
Wow. And those are three awesome things. Yeah, that and teleportation. So, who doesn't want that?
Right. Save on travel.
Right? Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, so that was an awesome setup. Is there anything more setup that you want to talk about that you're going to be teaching in the academy, or any promo that you want to teach and talk about for your class, Building Kingdom Businesses? Because I know they kind of go together.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is, if you're interested in these topics and you're getting started up, every third week on Discovering the Truth with Duval, I've taken over the podcast and we're running a Christian business podcast. And in those podcasts, we go through the gamut of business. So we talk about some of this spiritual stuff from a cosmic soul trade perspective. We talk, I'm interviewing social entrepreneurs who are using enterprise to fund social missions. We talk about people who are in corporations and how God is helping them. Prophetic coaches. So it's going to be Daryl Crawford Marshall is going to be in the podcast. So we just talk about a variety of things, how to use the courts of heaven. So that's interesting. If you're interested in that, you can do that. For the Building Kingdom Business class, it's a 6-week class. It starts April 7th through May 19th. And it'll be Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. And in that class, we're going to go over the 4 levels of entrepreneurship, which are really important. We're going to go over mantles, mandates, and mountains, which I alluded to in this on this show, and what the difference is between some of these you probably haven't even heard of and how they work together. We're going to talk about building business in the spirit realm. So if your mind was like fried when I talked about the third heaven and the second heaven, the first heaven, don't worry about it. We're going to go over that in detail. And that's the third lesson. The fourth one is transitioning your business to the kingdom. And that's something that you just have to hear, how to capitalize and just talking about how to build. And the last one is building heavenly blueprints. So there's a number of things like building with vision, competence, environmental design, building with systems, not goals. I think we're going to talk about that in the academy, and building with your spirit. So that is the class. And I would love to see many of your people here come to the class and check it out. It has been the first class.
Absolutely.
people had amazing testimonies even before the class ended about how they operate these principles and seeing dramatic results in their business.
That is awesome. Well, I want to attend. So absolutely. Who's with me? Come on, let's all go together. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Christian. This is amazing. I can't wait for the academy teaching, even that. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Okay, you guys. So if you absolutely loved it, which I know that you did, please share, subscribe, like, click the buttons wherever you're listening to it. And we so appreciate your support and encouragement. Make sure that you look at all of the show notes. I will have everything that she talked about, all of the links, all of those dates, everything like that are going to be in the show notes on spiritcenteredbusiness.com. And until next time, stay spirit-centered. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.